If you ask me why I love Magic the Gathering, it would be difficult to give a short answer. But one of the reasons is the concept of language. The stage is 2018, and the release of the following year's core set is fresh in our minds. While Core 2019 wouldn't turn out to be a particularly memorable set, it did have some outstanding features. It brought us a reprint of Crucible of Worlds after 12 long years of waiting, introduced the widely polarizing Nexus of Fate, marked by its powerful effect and controversial distribution. But most importantly, like any core set, it released with a handful of exploratory designs that didn't fit in other sets. One of these was Chaos Wand, an artifact that lets you steal the next instant or sorcery from your opponent's deck and cast it. I was excited to try out this new jank, and I'll never forget the one fateful afternoon when the wand would finally chaotically flip me into my opponent's MPR 2009 foil textless cryptic command. Now, I didn't live under a rock, but Cryptic Command also wasn't a card I played with frequently, and its exact modes have always felt somewhat forgettable to me. Yet, if I were to cast it, I would surely need to know all its effects, and with this textless printing, I found myself needing to consult my opponent. I look with horror as he replies, "Maybe I shouldn't run this version." He could only remember 3 of the 4 modes. This was a situation where the long-standing quip, "reading the card explains the card," did not apply. After all, this adage is sarcastic at its core. Although it can come off as dismissive to new players, it was never meant to be taken 100% seriously. But it did get me thinking of the deeper, funnier sides of the rule. In most cases, yeah, absolutely, reading the card does explain the card. But it's exceedingly difficult to read a card without text. And many cards nowadays even have too much text to understand. Gross. Some printings, infuriatingly, only feature half the text, and others are illegible. Stop this nonsense, wizards. And some require you to comb through the comprehensive rules to decipher. A new player will not know about debt when it comes to protection, and Akroma is their nightmare come true. But to a veteran player, this is a walk in the park. These keywords directly translate into distinct situations. They dictate what can block Akroma, what happens after the block, and help us predict the infinite what-ifs that occur as a result of other card effects. As players, these concepts are second nature to us. In other words, across the 30,000 cards in Magic, we're equipped with all the knowledge we need to resolve any board state. And this led me to wonder, how is it that we retain so much information? If you enjoy video essays about Magic the Gathering, please help me out by hitting that subscribe button. I'm very close to reaching my first sub milestone. It's free and I could really use the help. Although to most, Magic might be just a game, to me it's something more, something telling about how we process. Lately I've been thinking about Magic in terms of language, and just like real life languages, this can be interpreted in many different ways. For instance, if we think about how cards are abbreviated, the wording in Magic is highly standardized. When we see enter, add, create, or dies, we understand broadly what those effects do and can characterize them into one or more archetypes. In meaning, these words only vaguely resemble their, in this case, English counterparts, but instead are stand-ins for very specific redefinitions. We parse activated abilities by the presence of a colon, and replacement effects will most often use the word instead. Learning this new vocabulary and syntax is akin to learning a new language, something built on but only adjacent to our native tongues, that is, a dialect. Like with other forms of gamer lingo, there's an inherent closeness to this language, a secret language known only to members of the fandom, an almost unintelligible language that lets us spark conversations with strangers at our LGS, discuss spoilers on the internet, or even read the card to explain the card. Like one might be able to name all the 1025 Pokemon, or the proper calls in a game of Valorant, there's some level of pride in being able to name all the mechanics on Questing Beast and know what they do. The way Magic's language sets itself apart from these other examples, though, is how formulaic it is. Unlike other games, Magic's language is integral to the game itself, with each word carrying the weight of many others, keywords being the prime examples. Take Regenerate. Let's look at how many terms it references. The comprehensive rules entry describes it as a replacement effect, something that applies to permanents in the event they would be destroyed. It references damage, a controller, the game action of tapping, and contingencies for creatures, combat, and triggered abilities. The burden of knowledge for this one keyword action is the culmination of pages and pages of comprehensive rules entries. Across all the rules, everything is accounted for and every situation has a defined outcome. You only need know where to look. It's for this reason that I'm constantly impressed with Magic hobbyists and rules lawyers. In this light, it might be more appropriate to consider the language of Magic not as a written or natural language, but as a kind of programming language. To a coding enthusiast, this might not come as much of a shock. After all, the game uses the same terminology of the stack as it refers to a last-in, first-out model in computer science, both alluding to a stack of plates where removing objects is only convenient from the top. Each card or ability in Magic corresponds to a program, which involves one or more functions: enter, add, create, or dies. Subroutines, if you will, that are then described with instructions in the comprehensive rules. No doubt some of you have heard of Dr. Alex Churchill's work in creating a makeshift computer completely out of Magic's mechanics, perhaps best publicized by Kyle Hill. It's Magic's language that facilitates this, makes the game granular and formulaic. Magic's greatest strength is that it's unambiguous, and it's in this way that we've subconsciously programmed ourselves with the hundreds of clauses in the dictionary we call the comprehensive rules. But then what about this? To build on the analogy of Magic as a programming language, let's talk about Cruft. Cruft is a term that originated in the world of software engineering, but has more recently been applied to areas of design. It roughly refers to the idea of bloat or vestigiality, as in the use of dated systems, inelegant workarounds, unnecessary complexity, or visual clutter. That is, while I make the point of Magic being process-driven, that doesn't mean it's without bugs. Animate Dead famously jumps through whatever hoop this is due to the rules baggage of how aura spells work, and Chains of Mephistopheles is better explained using a flowchart than its rules text. These cards are examples of legacy-based Cruft, and they reveal another aspect of why I love Magic. Cards like Raging River, Goblin Game, Illusionary Mask, or Camouflage are notorious for being worded funny in order to shoehorn their strange effects into a game that has evolved without them. These effects are outdated, and this process of turning these imprecise concepts into precise wording is proof of the robustness of the Magic engine. Certain cards exhibit rules-based Cruft. Of its 30,000 cards, Magic has around 60 that are so unique that they each inhabit their own exceptions in the comprehensive rules. In truth, going over these was the original premise for this essay, but I've decided that these will be better showcased in a supplemental video. If you're interested, I'll link it down below when it's ready. Effects like predefined tokens, Monarch, Dungeons, Initiative, Ring Temp, Day Night, Rad Counters, and so on can also be considered rules Cruft. These are Crufty less in the technical sense, the coding side, but more so in the game design sense. They're elements extraneous to the average game and add to the burden of knowledge needed to play Magic. I cannot recall all the rooms on all the dungeon cards, and I will not bother memorizing the effects of the ring when it's not relevant to most matches I play. But these effects are indelible by nature, forever documented in the rules whether we see them or not. We archive them along rare and bygone mechanics, assigning the rules as not only a dictionary but also a glimpse into the past. And finally, when it comes to the MPR 2009 foil textless cryptic command, something I've gone back and forth about is calling it graphic design Cruft. As with Secret Lair and alternate art, this is an issue of vanity and comfort. Even though Magic's gameplay is systematic, its world building, deck building, and collectible aspect is expressive. From a purely gameplay perspective, having multiple interpretations of the same card is not necessary, and also adds to the burden of knowledge. But these alternate printings do so much in keeping the storytelling of Magic unique, cohesive, and alive. By showcasing different styles and different moods, The appearance of cards is in itself a third form of language, physical design. Cryptic command is an example of embracing a radicalized form in exchange for all semblance of function, and therefore textless cards like it have been referred to as mistakes, but cool ones. They're more forgivable on iconic cards with simple effects, and so I find it bewildering that they would choose to make the same mistake again in 2024 with the textless Urza Saga. But I digress. Let's get back to the idea of language. Whether we view Magic as an avenue for social interaction or a finely tuned engine, it's clear that there are many ways to interpret it. This concept of interpretation seemingly at odds with the idea that Magic is process-driven, intuitive, and unambiguous. The existence of Cruft is testament that, despite its meticulous nature, Magic is not without flaws. Cruft being the main reason why reading the card no longer explains the card. On one hand, these flaws are often interesting ones, hinting at the game's rich history. At the same time, while there might be an impending problem with game complexity, it's these crufty anomalies that I find the most intriguing, a twisting of language that's an expression of the game's evolution, or a growing lexicon, if you will. While I was annoyed with my opponent for not knowing his own card at the time, I now view that interaction with a sense of playfulness. In the end, it was a blip in time in an uneventful set, but one that's helped me contextualize Magic in terms of its game design. You might call Magic methodical, but in many ways it also seems haphazard and arbitrary. A perfectly precise language, yet filled with mistakes that are, for better or for worse, permanent reminders of the fleeting. To get back to the question of why I love Magic, I hope it's sufficient to say it's these dichotomies, these design choices, these mistakes, these expressions of language, and all of you that speak it. Thanks for listening, and make sure you let me know about your experiences, but that's all I have prepared for today. Stay tuned for my future video for all the content I cut from this script. If you're interested, please remember to hit that subscribe button. I'm so close to making my first $1 on YouTube, and I could really use your help. I make content about Magic trivia and design. If you want to support me directly, a link to my Patreon is down below as well. See you next time.